in riparian areas throughout the 18-county watershed. John McCarthy's organization has been instrumental in the upper basin, and our partners in the lower basin have included Department of Conservation and Recreation state parks at Belle Isle, where I've been the last 3 days, the Rappahannock River Valley National Wildlife Refuge, and the various Department of Forestry offices that serve the Northern Neck and Mill Peninsula. And of course, the planning districts help drum up interest in these programs, as do the counties and private landowners and the soil and water conservation districts. Just in total, we're at 118 acres planted this spring in the lower basin. I guess from Fredericksburg down, that's 75 acres. That's like 29,000 trees in Caroline County, 5 acres in Stafford County, just around 26 acres in Richmond County, 6 acres in Lancaster County completed yesterday. We even put in 100 trees at an Essex County elementary school with a couple teachers. And in the fall, as of right now, we have another 54 acres enrolled in our cost share programs, which I say our cost share programs, they're the cost share programs of the Soil and Water Conservation Districts and NRCS that we provide additional resources and funding for to make it zero cost for the landowner or the state or the federal government, whoever owns the property. That's another 35 acres in Richmond County on the Wildlife Refuge, 10 acres in Urbana on a crop field, and another 10 acres in King George County with an NRCS program. The roundtable had a goal of 225 acres over 3 years, and we're going to do probably 225 acres just this year. And we did over 100 last year. And I know more grants are being written to increase the size and scope of these programs throughout the basin. We are not getting anywhere close to the WIP goal of around 4.25 million trees by 2025. But when we started this a decade ago with John Marshall Soil and Water District, we were planting 200 trees with 18 to 25 kids once a year. So we've come a long way. At the last River Basin Commission meeting, the chairman and members asked for more information on some living shoreline projects. I'll start with the small potatoes and then defer over to kind of one of the two really big projects that are happening right now. Through funding from 2 different grants from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, we've been able to have design and permits completed for 3 living shorelines in Urbana Creek. This is building off of many years of hard work from the Restore Urbana Creek Partnership, which Will referenced. These are just private residential riverfront landowners, 100 feet at a time, 200 feet at a time. And we're able to, because there's no VCAP, Virginia Conservation Assistance Program, there's no Soil and Water District cost share in Urbana and Middlesex County. Our grants and donations of material and engineering time are able to provide 100% of those costs. And we do have another one of those projects going on over in the Northern Neck in Richmond County, and I think also another one in the pipeline in Lancaster County, all said about 750 linear feet for those small projects. And I say small projects, but these things can still cost $10, $20, $50,000 real quick for not an enormous amount of shoreline restored. And then similarly, this is going back upstream a little bit. In Portabago Bay, we're working with the Homeowners Association and the Hanover Caroline Soil and Water Conservation District and some of the residents in that community. They have a completed design and approved JPA for a larger shoreline project there. They're trying to make it a multi-year project because they have to dredge the area around their boat launch, and they've worked out a deal where they can use their dredge spoils as the beach nourishment as they continue to build out that shoreline project. So that's a really interesting, innovative project. And the largest living shoreline, I believe, happening right now is at Belle Isle State Park. This is by the Virginia Department of Transportation as a part of their compliance for their MS4 grant program and TMDL. If anybody's been to Belle Isle State Park, to the visitor center, it's an exceptional facility, and I'm sure the River Basin Commission has taken advantage over the years. And they have, it was every bit of 6 to 8 feet of a drop off from the original crop field down to the water level. And they're out there doing an immense amount of earthwork. And I was trying to get a site tour put together while I was down there this week. That's not available yet, but I imagine Chairman Bellows and VDOT can put something together if and when any members of the Basin Commission are interested in going out and seeing that, whether it's by boat on the water or by land. That's going to be a real big time project. And any of our colleagues from the Shoreline Erosion Advisory Service would be able to go out and talk more of the technical stuff to us. And I believe there's some similar work going on in the York River and the James on public lands. So that one is rounding third. I think they're 75% done with that one. So we might see some large plantings coming up and some greenery to get some good photos at and see what a really large scale project like that looks like. And then just upstream from there at Belle Isle State Park, again, it only has taken the Army Corps about 15 years to figure out what their design strategy they're interested in for a second high priority living shoreline opportunity is going to be. So I imagine we might have another 10 years or so before we see that one completed. But those are two very large efforts on the main stem of the Rappahannock, where it is, a couple miles wide. And I think both of those are incorporating some oyster reef and mussel habitat into the designs of those, which is really interesting. And Friends of the Rappahannock is working with local watermen to secure an aquaculture lease right out in front of Belle Isle State Park to do long-term about 60 to 70 acres of oyster reef restoration that would complement those shoreline restoration projects. I don't want to just say, welcome, John. Do you want to add anything about the VDOT Living Shoreline project? But I think that's all I've got for you, Eldon, Mr. Chairman.
Brian, I have a quick question for you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for that update. It's exciting on some of those projects. What kind of trees are you all planting on mostly in your plantings?
Yeah, so the wildlife refuge biologist had a very specific planting plan that she provided us, as did DCR's Habitat Division. And the Department of Forestry also weighs in with their recommended species. It's a mix of large trees and shrubs to maximize the wildlife value because people do hunt at both those properties. Multiple oak species, black oak, willow oak. I think we use swamp white oak in one area. There's some wax myrtle for some of the areas that are inundated with salt a little bit more frequently. Persimmons and maybe some silky dogwood, tulip poplar in certain areas. There's a mix of pine in the wildlife refuge. Just because it was so large, pine trees are much cheaper to plant. If you're interested, I can get you the species lists that were spec'd out for that.
No, that's fine. I was just interested in to see what kind of general, if it was all just monoplanting or if it was like a mixed species. Thanks.
Yep.
Thank you, Brian. Any other questions for Brian before we jump over to John? Okay, thank you. John, just in the nick of time.
Yeah, and hopefully I can, good morning, everyone. Hopefully I can expand on what Brian was talking about. Brian, you talked about the work that you're done at both Belle Isle and the refuge, right?
I went over the tree plantings in detail. talked about some of the smaller living shorelines that we have going on with DCR. And I touched on the VDOT and Army Corps at projects at Belle Isle, but I don't have the most current details. If you had anything you wanted to expand on that.
Yeah, I sure can. Eldon, can I share my screen real quick? All right. All right. Speaking of living shorelines, at Belle Isle State Park, VDOT has been working over the course of the last few years to do a living shoreline project behind the visitor center. This was to restore some bank degradation and try to actually create some marsh habitat in the living shoreline area for critters. I'm going to share some pictures with you guys that were shared with me this morning. Katie Shepard shared these. Here's the breakwaters going in. You guys can see that, right? Here's the breakwaters going in. Here's some folks working on the breakwaters. You can see they did a significant amount of bank cutback there to shallow that out. And here's some beach nourishment going in. So the update on this project is that they're kind of getting to the point where they're going to be doing the plantings, and then it's kind of a wait and see, as Brian knows, to see how things kind of settle out. But it looks, I've been there in person, and it looks way better than it did in the past. And
John, it's stuck on the first picture.
it is stuck on the first picture. Excuse me, sorry. There you go. You can see the bank restoration they did there. They cut that bank back to a better angle. So, you know, they're getting to the place now where they're going to be doing some plantings. And I'm learning how to navigate sharing my screen here. And so we'll see how those plantings settle in. So I think ultimately this is a project that was much needed because it's right behind the visitor center. And at Belle Isle, they have this neat little iPad set up in their visitor center where you can kind of see the shoreline like a live feed. And so it's a great educational tool for folks that visit Belle Isle to learn about living shorelines and habitat restorations and how we deal with erosion problems and thus protect the water quality and the habitat. So moving on from Belle Isle, which they have a lot going on there. Katie shared with me that their revenues were up significantly in 2020 from 2019. I think we're seeing that across the state when it comes to recreation. Folks during the pandemic were chomping at the bit to get outside. So there's another project down by the pavilion area of the park where there was some pretty severe erosion. I think they were losing in the order of near a foot a year in erosion. And the Army Corps of Engineers has been playing with the project there for 10, 20 years. There's been a lot of attention by VIMS and otherwise to that location for quite some time. So the Army Corps went about three months ago, went out to public comment for a shoreline design that would include oyster and mussel restoration, bank restoration, and habitat restoration. And just kind of quick and dirty, given this, just kind of showing this to you that this is the large area. This is the pavilion and the restroom area. And they're going to be taking care of this whole point. And you can see how bad the erosion's gotten over the years. So it's going to include some breakwaters and some other things. Now, they haven't settled in on the final design, so this is all preliminary. But as they settle that in and go in for their permits, we'll see. But I think the public comment period is still open, so we're waiting on that to close. but it's been a long time coming. We'll wait a little bit more. And again, another great opportunity for education and outreach. Hopefully we can partner with folks like Friends of the Rappahannock and the Park Can to really educate folks about the type of work that it takes to protect our water quality, to mitigate erosion, and to restore habitat.
Yeah, John, we have $5,000 to develop interpretive signage with VDOT and the state park for that one. That's in our INSR grant. So
That's excellent, Brian. And I think that the state parks are going to need some match money for the Army Corps work that's being done. And we've certainly offered to work with them to help identify some match funding. And I think there are some state funds that might be coming available that might be a good fit here. So a lot of work at the state park. This is one of our premier assets in the Rappahannock Basin here in the Northern Neck. It's personally my favorite state park in all the state, and I've visited every one of them. It's a beautiful park with a lot of amenities. All right, I'm going to turn my attention to a larger project that has been worked on with a collaboration of the Northern Neck PDC, the Middle Peninsula PDC, and Accomack Northampton PDC, which is the creation of VirginiaWaterTrails.org. This started as a collaboration through the Coastal Zone Management Program to promote ecotourism in the three regions, kind of aligning our similarities. And really, the water trail site came online right as the pandemic was hitting, so it was kind of perfect timing. In addition to the creation of the site, there's been a great deal of outreach and media marketing. We've hired a media marketing company, have been working with Virginia Tourism and collaborating with the Virginia Oyster Trail to create this beautiful website. And the idea was to create a product that prospective people can visit the area prior to actually physically visiting the area. They can go and look at what water trails exist and also help plan their trip off the water using an itinerary, a digital itinerary tool that was created for the Virginia Oyster Trail that shows nearby businesses, restaurants, lodging, that kind of thing, oyster trail sites that people can visit once they get off the water. And I'm not going to do a full exploration of the site. I will go to the Northern Neck region. And a big component of this website was the creation of Water Trails Map. It's a Google app-based application showing the water trails here in the Northern Neck. Hopefully you guys can see me navigating to the Google Maps. But there's a number of layers in here in addition to the water trails. And I'm going to focus right in here, Lancaster County in the Windmill Point area, where we have a nice beginner's water trail in the Little Oyster Creek. We have our public access sites, and part of our technical assistance grant was to do a full inventory of our public access in the Northern Neck. That included all the amenities, taking pictures, so on and so forth. You have the Virginia Oyster Trail sites that are nearby. For instance, right here, you have Camp Little Bay Oyster Company. And then you have the public access here, the Little Oyster Creek Canoe Kayak Launch. And then I wanted to point this out. This is the Frederick H. Adjution, I think I've pronounced that correctly, public boat landing. This was identified by Lancaster County in a previous iteration of the Virginia Outdoors Plan to create a premier public access point out in the Windmill Point area. It's been something that the county's had on their wish list for a while, and I'm happy to announce that it's been completed. So congratulations, Jason. This is a beautiful site. When I went down there to visit, I took some photos, and I'm going to share those now. Here's this beautiful boat ramp. And
Thanks, John. This has been extremely, extremely popular.
I mean, it is a beautiful boat ramp. They have this large parking area, and each parking spot has like a permeable pavement where they use these plastic grids and they have grass growing up in between. And they have large spaces for trucks with trailers and smaller spaces for just cars. Here's the sign, beautiful sign, and a little pier. So it was a great site. And I know previously we've talked about public access as being really important. And in the Northern Neck, we really didn't have a whole lot of access directly to the Chesapeake Bay. And this is now our premier access directly to the Chesapeake Bay. And so thankful for that. Going back to our map, right here at Westland Beach, and I know I'm not going to talk too much about it, but just say that the county has designs in mind to address some pretty severe erosion that's occurring here at Windmill or Westland Beach, and they want to increase and better the beach access there. In fact, we don't really have any beach access in the Northern Neck. This is it. So hopefully the county can move forward with that, and they identify a project to address the erosion and create some beach access there. Going back out of the map.
Hey, John, before you move on,
Sure.
and maybe this question is for Jason, who was Frederick Ajusian? Is that how you say it?
That's correct. So to give you a little background, we've been at this to get public access in Lancaster County for the better half of probably 25 years. And so he was one of the original citizens that took on the challenge of trying to get this done. And we finally got it done. When I first got on the board in my first term, I made it a mission to get one of these access points done. And so after we successfully made it through all the jumped through all the hoops to get this done, we had it named for him.
Okay.
And
Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, is this a county owned and operated facility or a Department of Wildlife Resources owned and operated facility?
The county leases the land that it's actually on a long-term lease, but we maintain it and operate it, and made a lot of agreements to improve road access. We used all that permeable pavement in lieu of having to have real pavement. And so that cut down on some of the mitigation bank stuff we had to purchase, because we did have to remove some marsh areas, so we had to mitigate that.
We designed some permeable pavement signs for town of Kilmarnock. If you wanted one or two of them for that area, we could refabricate some.
Yeah, that would probably be great to have an interpretive sign down there for that.
Okay.
We're working on some greater plans for this area. The marina owner down there is pretty much not easy to deal with and uncooperative.
Speaking of interpretive signage, I wanted to point this out, and this is a very smart use of public access by the county in my mind. So you have this great boat launch that they just created for powered boats. But just up the street here on Little Oyster Creek and Windmill Point Creek, you have a canoe kayak launch. This is a car top launch, very nice, very primitive. And what it does is it keeps your car top launch folks away from your powered boat folks, and it reduces that conflict and any chance for conflict between those two uses. So it's really smart to have these three sites kind of right near one another, all have a different type of function. And I think it's really premier access to the Chesapeake Bay and Lancaster County. Scrolling back out on the map and one of the other features, we have interpretive locations, birding, history, fishing, industry kind of throughout the Northern Neck region on the waterways, really kind of highlighting how the area is great for recreation, but it's also a working area. These waterfronts are working waterfronts. And we in the Northern Neck are really good at sharing our space and trying to mitigate conflict.
John, a quick question on this. What has been the marketing to get the word out about, say, this Northern Neck Water Trail? Because this is like the first I've really heard of it. Is this a new product, or is it just being started to be marketing, or what?
Yeah, so the first 3 years was the creation of the products, and this next 3 years through the Coastal Zone Management Program is to promote and market the water trail site. In
It is an
addition to
awesome
the
resource.
in addition to the Oyster Trail site, and I mean, you should have probably heard about it now, so that's probably on that's probably on me. But we've really refined it, and the purpose of this. Well, the map itself is unique to the Northern Neck. Each the Middle Peninsula has their own map, and the Eastern Shore has their own. But this is just one component of the larger site. And let me scroll here, which is to provide a resource for prospective visitors to really explore the area and see what's available around as far as experience, hiring an eco tour guide, the Virginia Oyster Trail, going here. You have access to the map and trip planner for the Virginia Oyster Trail, and this will help somebody plan their trip off the water. So I know where I want to go paddle at, where am I going to stay, where am I going to eat. This is a great tool here, and partnering with the Oyster Trail was a real blessing in disguise. They have their own thing that they're doing, and we're happy that they were able to be a part of it. And we have trail tips. This is pretty much talking about canoe and kayaking safety. We're getting ready to get some funding from Coastal Zone Management Program to install signage at some of our public access sites, particularly our water trail sites, to not only promote the water trail, we'll throw a logo on there, but to talk about water trail safety and things that you can do to be safe on the water. Trail news, you got news and events. Obviously, the events calendar is pretty blank at the moment because of the pandemic. But things are starting to pick up again, and this will fill in relatively quickly as we approach the summer.
John, we also, in Lancaster County, we have the site that we purchased for the school site, which is probably now going to be in a different site, which has some great headwater access on the headwaters of the Coratoman. And so the county is now looking to develop that waterfront as it would mostly be another sort of canoe kayak, but public access point.
Yeah, have your staff get in touch with me, Jason. I'd love to talk about that a little bit more.
So how we can all work together on funding
Absolutely.
and other ways to blend in with these things that are already going.
Absolutely. And I actually, Jason, I anticipate a public access authority meeting coming up here pretty soon. Anyway, we have
in regards to that, we may have to appoint a new member to that. I think our previous member has passed away.
Oh, that's sad to hear.
I think Carl Smith was our member on that commission.
Well, yeah, to that effect, our Public Access Authority recently submitted an application to the Waterway Maintenance Fund to look at dredging and shoreline erosion issues. Right here, you can see how we have some blogs that were created by all the three regions. The collaboration between the three regions, we're kind of calling ourselves the Coastal Virginia Ecotourism Alliance. More or less just the three regions trying to collaborate in how we promote ecotourism and on-water experiences. So some great blog posts here. Anyway, that's pretty much the site. And like I said, right now we're in a 3-year marketing phase where we've hired a marketing company and are working with Virginia Tourism to promote the site, create vinyl stickers and logos that we can throw on kayaks and put up at public access sites. Like I said, we're going to identify those water trail sites and put up some new signage. In fact, we've tagged the canoe kayak launch down there at Windmill Point to do some new signage. We've got some money, pass-through money through the Coastal Zone Management Program to put new signage in there, and hopefully we can make it look like the beautiful sign you put at the boat ramp. So again, a lot of activity in the Northern Neck around outdoor recreation. The pandemic has really been a catalyst for folks to be thinking about how we can improve access to the outdoors and the type of opportunities visitors can experience. And a lot of it, as you saw at Belle Isle, has to do with habitat and water quality restoration, because they're all part and parcel, and we can't do one without the other. And when we have folks visit our waterways and paddle our beautiful waterways, we want them to know there's a lot of effort that goes into making it and keeping it the way it is. And so we try to mitigate and manage conflict in our land use. And we try to do as much as we can to improve water quality and restore habitat when we think about public access and outdoor recreation. I will stop sharing now, and I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to share some stuff going on in our region.
All right, sorry about that. I had a little technical glitch and thought I lost the whole thing, but all right. John, thank you. That was outstanding. And I was playing around with a website while you were doing it. That I signed up for your newsletter. That's really impressive. With that, Will, let's jump to you and talk to us about Carter's Creek.
First of all, I'm at home and all my pictures are on my work computer, so my apologies that I won't be able to share, but I will get them up to Eldon that he will be able to share. But I'll just give you Tides Inn is a family-owned operation, but the Tang family. They're all here this week, so everyone's kind of going crazy, but that's all right. But our Living Shoreline project started first of all with the Tang family just saying we're losing real estate, massive erosion on the property, and so they were like, well, what are we going to do? And eventually it led to we're building, or in the process of building, hoping to complete by July 1, 1,300-foot living shoreline. We're planting 10,500 wetland plants, 10,500 riparian plants, and 45 trees in the property. It's all invasive species all along the shoreline. So everything that we're putting in is Virginia native. So we're going to increase the diversity by 100 times. I mean, it's incredible what's coming out and what's getting put in. And above the living shoreline, we're putting a raised walkway that will walk over top of the entire thing. And it ends up giving us a big loop in our property for to get people outside walking around more. It is a beautiful project working with nature instead of against it. And we have a cove area. We'll be putting in a fairly large oyster reef, and then I hope to expand the oyster restoration underneath pretty much the whole walkway all the way around the whole shoreline. But shell right now is hard to access, so that will come in time. And we produce a lot of shell on our property with an oyster bar on our waterfront. So we'll be putting all of our shell back into the creek moving forward.
Hey, Eldon, I have the landscape architect document from at some point in this project. Will, would you want me to try and share that?
Oh, that's what I was looking for, and I realized that it's not on this computer. So if you can, that would be great.
You should be able to share your screen now, Brian.
So our landscape architect is Water Street Studios, Charlottesville and Richmond. Of course, Gluckman Tang Architecture is our owner's architecture business.
Are y'all seeing this?
No.
The bay design has been the engineers and permitting office. And then Docks of the Bay is completing our work.
How about now?
Well, we see, there we go.
So this is the northwest shore of the property. All of it with extreme erosion all the way around, and we'll be grading all the hillsides 2-to-1 grade. Here you can see the walkway above the shoreline being planted. All of the interior pylons have already been driven. We're laying the vinyl sheeting now so we can start putting sand behind for our for the wetland plants. This is behind our Windsor house, and we've redone that for there are 6 new suites in there, but this is the first bank as you come around from our oyster bar. This is the first bank, and again, this is all going to get regraded and replanted. And that's the dream.
Wow.
It's a $3.6 million project, and they're big dreamers, and they're building a huge project. This is the future behind Windsor.
Hey, Will, did you say what your timeline was? If you did, I missed it.
We're about halfway. We're a couple weeks behind. We were sort of hoping to be done June 1, but it looks like it's going to be closer to July 1. On June 18th, we're still in the works for the details, but on June 18th, we're going to have a community planting day with Friends of the Rappahannock to plant all the cord grass for the low-lying area. So this is our bluff area. This is where the most damage to our shoreline. This is on the northwest bank, and that's all getting regraded and put down. There's actually a bulkhead on this shoreline. So you can see the seat wall, that's really going to be a bulkhead that we're grading down to. This is the only part of the property, part of the shoreline where water will only be on one side. The rest of it, water is on both sides of the raised walkway. And but due to the hillside, we had to bulkhead in there. We also built if you look on the left-hand side of this document, there's a beach. That has been completed. We put a couple breakwaters out, and then we ran 20 dump trucks a day for 2 weeks of sand. It was unbelievable.
Well, that is impressive. I now have a visit that I'm gonna need to make once I want to get down there and see it when it's done.
Will, thanks for that.
Yeah, of course, my secondary role to all this, having done so much field education in the Rappahannock River and Oyster Farm, that I'm going to be building programming for the Tides End guests and for locals who'd like to go, based around fish, crabs, and oysters. We're going to be building an oyster farm. We'll be farming. Well, the cages will be out in the Rappahannock River, but I'll be building a farm site for the Tides End. And we will continue to work with FOR and oyster restoration. and anywhere else that we can help out on Carter's Creek.
Will, thanks you. I've been watching this project from the water here for the last few weeks. I don't think we've ever met before, but I'd like to hook up at some point and talk about some synergies and things going on, not only the Tides Inn. It's always been a premier economic center for Lancaster County. So whatever we can do as a board to work together with you and the towns and things and promote economic synergy, I think is a good thing. So let's try to link up and meet sometime.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Super. And I see that Elizabeth Andrews has joined us. And welcome, Elizabeth. Glad to have you with us.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Could I ask a question? Am I allowed to ask a question since you
Absolutely. Go right
were
ahead.
there? So first of all, since I'm around the point, I'm going to go this evening and look at your cool new beach. But and I would like to ask the Friends of the Rappahannock how we go about signing up to help if we want to help with the grass planting on the 18th of June. But did you encounter any issues about, as you're doing these living shorelines behind your walkway? That's essentially what you're doing, I guess, native plantings. You know, there's been a lot of discussion about a lack of native plantings or concern about once living shorelines are installed, the maintenance of the plantings and who's responsible for keeping them alive and all of that. Did you encounter any of those issues? Have those kinks been worked out?
It will be trial by fire for us, but maybe Brian can expand on some shorelines that have already matured.
Well, I would say from the get-go, having the right people involved with the project is going to mitigate that significantly. Clean fill with no invasive lingering seeds for the beach nourishment is always a great place to start. And we advocated for bringing a firm, Environmental Concern. They are based out of the Eastern Shore of Maryland, but they have 25 years of shoreline design, installation, and maintenance. They're a nonstop shop. So they've been able to recommend upfront maintenance practices, caution against what it's going to take long-term, and help build some expectations in with the landscape architecture firm that the Tides is contracted. They tweaked the species list to help ensure better long-term resiliency. They looked at the density, the size of the plantings to help maximize success while meeting the clients, the Tides ownership's, kind of expectation of it being green from day one versus itty bitty little plugs that fill out over a year or two. But any of these BMPs, maintenance. And fortunately, the Tides has a robust staff, whereas a private landowner who lives somewhere else for half the year is not going to have the same level of success. They're also not investing $3.5 million in their project. But and I guess for your other question, for the 18th, I would in the chat box trade emails with Will, since they're gonna be the ones kind of giving the thumbs up on the dates, and if there's any COVID guidelines, their in-house planning and event staff are going to be guiding that. Is that right, Will?
Yeah, so the owners are here this week, and they're going to be tweaking the details to the whole thing, because it's going to be a whole event with music and a band. I mean, live music and food, and they sort of want to. They're a different animal. I mean, they want to charge for the event, and I'm trying very hard to get that. Let's say you can come for the planting to help with the project, but then not stay for the dinner. But they, I don't have a final answer for you right now.
That's fine. That's fine. But Brian, that was very helpful about the living shorelines. Thank you. That's always a challenge that we hear raised. So it's really good to hear a success story. So thank you for providing that. That's good. And by success, I mean just all the input in the front end. Yeah,
we're hoping it's a success story. We'll come back next year and Will can give another update.
On the right computer. Will's like to share some one interesting thing that I found fascinating. So the engineers based the height of the walkway on the tide tables given by NOAA. So average tide tables over the last future predictions and also past, and the 5 years before, 5 years after.